Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. If you're joining from Africa, my name is Thelma Ekiyor. I am the managing partner of SME NG. It's an impact investing platform here in Nigeria. I'm also the founder and chairperson of AfriGrants here in Nigeria. It's both a social enterprise and we have a foundation. And it's my pleasure to be moderating this panel of amazing women whom I know, and they're just fierce and fabulous. And you're going to be hearing about all the things that they've done in their own lives and the work, how it is to their own vantage point of how they view entrepreneurship from the different sectors. And we hope you stay with us to learn. We welcome our Facebook audience. We have people from all over the world listening to this panel. African people of African descent have a lot to offer the world. With everything going on in the world right now, we have a platform where people want to hear what people of color in general are doing in their communities. And I think I wouldn't have chosen any 4 women to do this with me today. So without much ado, I welcome my panel. They're going to introduce themselves. And we have, I'm from Nigeria. We have a panelist from Ghana. We have a panelist who is Liberian American. We have a panelist who is Madagascan British. And then we have a panelist who is American. So you see, very, very varied. I'm going to start with Yvonne. Yvonne, please introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And what is the most interesting thing about you that our global audience should know?
Oh, wow. First of all, you can call me Phoebe. My name is Yvonne Rivers, but I go by Phoebe, and that's the name of my business that was established in 1997. So I am a strategic thinker. I am a global traveler. I am a person who's looking at always the trending of the future, using what I have to get what I want, being the very best, being and knowing that only thing that I have as competition is excellence. So I can bring my A game every day and really succeed with it. I always have an initiative for women, for youth, minorities. And so I've traveled the world, and my whole initiative is to help each person achieve their fullest potential. So if you want to achieve your fullest potential, call Phoebe. That's me.
Fantastic. The next person I'm going to invite is Anatu. Where are you, Anatu, and what do you do?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Anat Ben Lawal, and I live in Ghana at the moment, but I have worked across 15 countries in Africa. I'm a CEO of an organization called Inzuri Africa, and we produce health and wellness products. In other words, spa products. I also run an organization called Social Innovation Africa, which is a think tank trying to work out the enabling environment for entrepreneurship in Africa. But I'm going to discuss Inzuri Africa and the perspective. Inzuri Africa, as I mentioned, works on producing spa products. Our vision is to innovate and cause indigenous African herbs to go across the world and have a range like Bath and Body Works. We work with women in the north of Ghana, rural women, and we have certain social initiatives. Northern Ghana is part of the one of the poorest areas in Ghana, and so it's also a social enterprise that is trying to have impact with women. And so my key area is innovation, productivity, and industrialization. That's my vision. So if you want to talk to anybody in Africa about that, that's why. If you want to talk to me about policy and enabling environment as well, I'm here. So that's it from me.
Thank you. I'll invite our next panelist, Rachel.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening for those that are on the continent. My name is Rachel McCauley. I am an African development strategist and practitioner. I have independently consulted for several organizations and have lived across about 6 different African countries and have done some work across agriculture, healthcare, and global governance. My most recent role is with the OCP Group, a global fertilizer producer that's headquartered in Morocco. And my role is to really be a connector. That's something I've done historically, something I am passionate about, I am a proud Liberian American and a connector of people, ideas, and cultures. So looking forward to the conversation, and thank you, Thelma, for the invitation.
Great. And last but not least is Faz. Go ahead, Faz.
Hi, Thelma. Thank you for the invite, and congratulations to you and Emil for this fantastic conference. My name is Farahnaz Hossenally, but you can call me Faz. And my industries was within the sports industry and my expertise. I've been in the sports industry for almost 10 years now, starting with Arsenal Football Club, having an amazing experience with NFL and NBA, all based in London. And I've actually created my own business, sports management business company that integrates sports management and youth development and focusing on sports, education and technology.
Wonderful. So I'm sure you'll agree with me. Different sectors: sports, agriculture, consulting, social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, and I'm in impact investing. So we're going to keep it real, ladies. We promise to do that because I'm sure we have some young woman of African descent or woman of color or even a white woman, young woman, starting her career and saying, how can I be an entrepreneur in the space where I work? So I'm going to start with you, Faz, because I tell you all the time, I find you fascinating because any woman in sports, particularly working with the NFL and NBA and Americans call it soccer, but we call it football. So working in how have you managed to make a success of it? And what lessons do you have for people who want to be, women who want to be entrepreneurs in the sports space?
Thank you, Thelma. It's a challenging prospect for any women getting into the space. Unfortunately, it's a male-dominated. We know that on and off the field, and obviously we're trying to develop pathways for women both on and off the field. So for me, it was obviously a disadvantage for most people and coming over the odds of being a woman from an ethnic minority and being Muslim. So I had 3 challenges and hurdles to overcome. And thankfully, just being, to be honest with you, the experience I've had and the kind of advice that I would advise any young woman or young female that's trying to get into the industry is being persistent with it, having patience and being proactive, always knocking on the door, always looking for the opportunity. Don't wait for the opportunity to come to you. And also networking. I found LinkedIn amazing. That's my social media platform that I'm really heavy on. And just getting to know people, speaking to people. And as I said, knocking on the door is a massive thing in sports. Introducing yourself, being bold and not being timid. Trying to be confident is very hard in general, but within sports, you need to stand your own ground, have a thick skin as well. So there's loads of elements and challenges that you have to overcome, but working with players as well is a fantastic opportunity for me, and knowing them one-on-one as individuals, trying to build their brand, doing international development as well through community-based corporate development, business development for themselves. So it's fantastic, and it's just giving yourself that opportunity to give that challenge and to be in that challenge in that space of sports.
Great. I'll come to you, Rachel, because Rachel, agriculture. With agriculture the agricultural revolution in Africa has really been one of the highlights of the continent before COVID. And even now with COVID, it is clear that food security is one of the areas that the continent needs to focus on. But not just Africa, across the world, different regions are dealing with the dual impact of COVID and food insecurity. So being in the agriculture space, what is your experience on how women entrepreneurs can start businesses, or entrepreneurs in general? How can they navigate this space now?
Absolutely. Thanks for that question, Thelma. I'll first zoom out a little bit just to give a little bit of context around the agriculture challenge and opportunity we have as a global community. We all know that the world is increasing in terms of population at a rate and size that we can't necessarily sustain. Climate change has only made that more challenging and has had an impact on the arable land that we're able to cultivate healthy and accessible foods. At the end of the day, in order to feed everybody in the world, we need to cultivate lands, and we need arable lands. As it stands, Africa holds about 60% of the world's arable land, meaning the land that we can productively grow food on, and the land through which we can organically grow food as well. So in terms of the opportunity, this is not just something that is Africa specific, but as we become more involved in our global food systems from producer to consumer, we need to think about the entire agriculture value chain. So one of the opportunities first is thinking about the beginning of the value chain, and that is growers and producers. Where are the places where we are growing in a sustainable way the right foods and the healthiest foods for the populations that we need to feed? I'll zoom back in a little bit and focus on the African continent. I mean, there are such a range of biodiversities and different soil topologies that make agriculture such a productive and diverse industry to invest in right now. As we think about agriculture technologies, one of the things that I'm lucky enough to be a part of is working with incubators and accelerators that are finding some of these ag tech entrepreneurs that are addressing gaps in the value chain. One of the things we've really been excited to see is how do you integrate fintech solutions in agriculture right now? So we've seen things like Jumia really, really blow up. So that is essentially providing a platform through which people, e-commerce, through which people can source everything from produce to packaged goods. We're seeing solutions like Farm Crowdy, where, you know, if I am sitting here in New York, which I am, I'm actually able to be involved in the production and agriculture value chain in, let's say, Northeast Nigeria, for instance, where farmers may be growing cassava. So when you think about the opportunities, I would say, think about the value chain as a whole, globally, as a food system, and then think specifically about where are there particular gaps in the value chain as it relates to providing people with accessible, affordable, and healthy foods. Happy to chat more.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to come to you, Phoebe. Your name is on there as Yvonne, so when I say Phoebe, I mean Yvonne. So Yvonne, you have a very unique vantage point in all of this, and one is that you are African American, but you also have worked in different parts of the world. You have a very strong global presence, and so as in terms of entrepreneurship now, what is it that you're observing, and how can people who want to start businesses now even dare to do that? Because obviously people are frightened. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So what have you noticed, and what type of advice can you give people that are thinking of starting businesses now?
Well, you know, Thelma, the time is now, quite frankly. The time really is now. And I say this every time I get a chance to speak. COVID has not been a threat. It has been an opportunity. It really has been an opportunity. But the key thing is you need to know where the opportunity lies. And I say to people across the globe, before starting any kind of a venture with business and so forth, you need to know what you are a master of. So I say master your craft. Number two, develop at those collaborative relationships. What has helped me to have footprints on the continent is developing collaborative relationships, building that global ecosystem, business ecosystems. I know what I'm good at. I know I'm good at training. I know I'm good at pulling out of people their very best and tying into others who really can put those other footprints together, because it is, I think, Ubuntu, I am because we are. So we have to join together. So what I've seen out of all of this, and you sort of see it in the shutdown, because what has happened really is that you see families now that were scattered at dinner time, they're having dinner together because they can't go out. So that's a good thing. So you sort of look at what's really good about us staying in. Now, a lot of people talking about a whole lot of time they've got. I don't know where they're finding that time, because I don't have any extra time. I'm working more than I've worked before. But along with it, this is the trend not only after COVID, this is the trend period. We need to always be thinking, what's next, what's next, what's next? When people talk about for us coming out of COVID, and we never knew this was happening. No, we've never seen this in our lifetime, but along with it, did we ever know what tomorrow would bring even before? So we always have to be prepared. So I always teach people specifically, deal with your SWOT, your SWOT. What is your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? And really be engaged to be able to go against that. And looking at the opportunities, so the trending beyond 2020 are really phenomenal, because some of these entrepreneurs at this pitch school, they're coming up, a lot of these ideas came out of COVID. So opportunities. So look beyond the next 5 years, 10 years, technology. We're able to be on Zoom from the locations across the world. It's been around for the past 10 years, but 20 years, we couldn't have done what we're doing. When people say, well, I can't be in person with a conference, but you can do a virtual and you can gather even more people who don't have to fly in, hotels and so forth. So it's opportunities there. So I see the trending really being phenomenal even more. So if you're thinking of starting a business, you need to really be prepared. So know your craft. Make sure you know what you're bringing to the table. Know your customer. Who's your customer? And know your numbers. What's the size of your market? How are you going to reach your market? How many people do you have to reach? What's your budget and so forth? So you master your numbers, you will master your craft.
Fantastic. Very important points. Anatu, in terms of social innovation, many people misunderstand it. When you talk about social innovation, people think, well, does that mean I'm not going to make money? Because, if it's social, can that also be commercial? Can you explain? Because obviously with everything that's happening in the world, the ideal is to have people who can come up with innovations that can have social impact as well as financial returns. Can you explain how that linkage works in the course of your work?
Okay, very good point. I think in Africa, having come from a development background and being so used to aid, the tendency has been to look at the impact side as opposed to the commercial side. But now aid is over. We are in a time of pandemic, and I think there's never been a time for us to unlock innovation more than ever. But unlocking innovation to create industry, which is what I think Africa lacks. And instead of just importing Western technology and having all these different kinds of incubators, which are great, the digital ones, I think there's so much in communities at the grassroots level, in terms of herbs, in terms of products, in terms of leaves, in terms of all the stuff that we grew up with, that we love so much. It came from somewhere. And I think Africa has the biggest and widest opportunities in terms of, we all know how much produce we have. We all know how great the agri value chains are. We also know the potential here, because a lot of things are imported from Africa. So why are we not utilizing or taking that opportunity? So when we talk about social innovation, for me, it means innovations that actually unlock money for communities, employs people, creates job creation, etc., etc. We don't need to depend on aid. We don't need to depend on the West. We have everything here. But the value chain development is the problem. So back to my story. When I started out, I wasn't intentional. All the things that Yvonne is saying is very true. I wasn't intentional. I was disorganized. I knew I had a gift. I knew I was interested in this area of rural innovation and indigenous products. I didn't understand why communities had to suffer. And I also realized that, let's face it, no matter how much we try, most of Africa at the moment is the communities. There's a lot of illiteracy. A lot of people are not going to go to school. So how are we going to cater, or the government going to cater and give jobs to all these people, including myself? So I thought about this and I thought, let's take this opportunity to develop a business. So we had all these brilliant ideas, and I got to the women, but we're not structured. We're not organized. I didn't see the importance of getting a business coach. I didn't see the importance of getting a pitch together. So for many years, I felt we were talented, we're selling sort of ad hoc, and I wasn't, like I said, went to organize them. But we could actually have made so much, about 5 times the profit we made at the time, if only I had been structured, if only I had been determined. As a woman, nobody's going to come out and say, here is money, or here's the opportunity, etc. What people are looking for is business opportunities. So you have to crouch your case in a way that, yes, it has social impact, but at the same time, it's going to make it's commercially viable. So eventually, I began to realize that this sort of up and down and inconsistency is not going to help me. I need to start talking to people. I need to seek mentorship. I need to seek partners, and the partners were not going to invest unless they understood what I was saying. So I went ahead and I decided to invest in a business analyst or a business coach. And that made all the difference. So Yvonne, I get what you're trying to say. That made all the difference. And she took me through all this and said, you're trying to do too much, or, just plan it this way, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm honest with you, although it's difficult, and I know access to finance, et cetera, is still a problem for many of us. There are people who are looking for opportunities to invest. So once I did my pitch and I went out there, I spoke to an angel investor. And straight away, he said, I'll give you the money you need for this. This is amazing. This is what we need to be doing. And I ended up getting about 8 investors chasing me at the same time to develop this product. Also, I realized I didn't have to do everything. There's power in partnership. I got somebody who was really good at branding. I got somebody who was really good at finance. And we got together and we put this thing together. And actually right now, as COVID has come, it's been a tough time. Like I said, you don't have to wait for somebody to believe in you or for the opportunities to present themselves. They are out there. COVID is a time for us to get innovative. There's no more Western funding coming in, which in a way I'm glad to do. We all have to survive. And it is time for us to unlock the potential in Africa and create jobs in these local communities. So looking at with COVID, the opportunity that it presents is how are we going to come out of this, having a business that is top-notch, having a business that is strong. COVID doesn't have to be the end. There's now a lot of money and for economic empowerment of women. The world is working up to that. I'm not saying that solves all the problems, but people are recognizing more and more the need to invest. So let's take these opportunities. Networking. I didn't used to do any of those things. I used to think, I can just be by myself and we're doing this thing. At some point, I realized I need help. One of the things we are not good at asking as women, we don't ask for help. And I think that's a challenge. That was a challenge for me for many years. But since I started asking for help, since I started networking, I started putting my pitch out there and just being vocal and letting people know, and the response has been amazing. And I encourage anybody who is starting out, just be intentional, be structured, don't give up, go for it, and don't let anything pull you down or discourage you. Every disappointment is an appointment. It's an opportunity for you to become innovative and to recognize those opportunities. And there's a whole network now. Like I said before, about 5-10 years, those opportunities did not exist. Government was not giving grants. Facebook was not giving grants. But steadily, it has been growing. And there are opportunities out there if you go knocking hard enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A lot. And I think, the key word that's coming out from everything everyone is saying is collaboration, partnerships. You can't do it alone. Get skills, get advice. But, in terms of whenever I talk to young entrepreneurs, I've made it a point of duty not to tell them how wonderful I am or how fabulous I am, but I tell them about how I've recovered from failures in business, because inadvertently, as an entrepreneur, you're going to hit some very tough roads. So first of all, to the audience, can you start putting your questions in the chat box? Or if you want to speak, put up your hand and I will come to you. But I'll just go one round, just quickly, each of our speakers. Can you tell us one area where you failed and how you recovered from that failure? Okay. And I'll start because it's something I always tell entrepreneurs that one of the things you really, really need to spend a lot of time on is choosing the right partner. As much as we say partnerships, a wrong partner can kill your business. Yes. And I did that. I chose a wrong partner and it's tormented me for years. And it's something that some people are lucky, you can come out of it pretty quickly, and some people are not. And I'm just grateful that it didn't lead to the complete destruction of the business. But as you start, especially our young entrepreneurs who were here today, in your eagerness to raise money, you can raise the wrong money from the wrong person who will be a thorn in your side. And so please, desperation attracts wrong people. Make sure you don't give out a cent of desperation. I wasn't sure of my own value at the time. And so I, made a very wrong decision of getting into a bad partnership. And I'm happy that I came out of it with the help of really good friends and family. But it is very important that we share that with you, that please make sure that it's a failure that can take you years to recover. So that is mine. So I'll start with Faz. Faz, what is your failure and how did you recover?
I think you took my story actually, Thelma. Just echoing what you said, it's the same principles. unfortunately, my first social enterprise that I had a few years ago, things didn't really work out again with the partner, business partner. Again, everyone's got their own different pathways and different ways of thinking, but you just need to go into it remembering that not everybody has the same mentality as you. So don't expect the same from somebody else. And that's what I've had to learn. And as you said, it does take a long time to get over it and grieve over it, because it's like a baby. My first social enterprise was like a baby. The time, the effort, the love you put into the social enterprise. But one door closed, another one opens, as my grandma always teaches me. And it's true. Like, I'm so glad where I am today, and all those disadvantages and bad luck and all the bad things that's happened is turned into a positive light for me now. So I can't complain.
Great. Phoebe, how did you feel and how did you recover?
By being in business so long, because Phoebe Group has been around since 1997, but actually I've really been in business maybe since 80, 82 and doing self-employment. And the one thing was that I trusted that what I was doing was going to last forever and not being diversified and whatever. And probably about 20 years ago, it was to the point, and that's why you've got to be strong to be an entrepreneur, because you don't have that regular paycheck. And it got to the fact that I had no money. I had no money, to the point that I was working on a federal contract. My computer went out, just crashed. I couldn't buy another computer, but I had to finish this job to get paid. So this is where the innovative thoughts come in, that I did have $35. With that $35, I went to, that time they had these renter centers that I rented a laptop computer for $35 to end up getting, to finish up the contract to get $5,000. But I was without nothing. But at that particular time, I recognized I had to innovate. I had to innovate, not depend on what I had been doing that was paying me well, but just in case. And that was really the change, that I really became this different streams of revenue. From the training I was doing corporate sponsorship, marketing, I was doing radio shows. So I put in that it became the, basically, I don't say conglomerate, but Phoebe. I created Phoebe that had the different wheels of revenue, because I recognized I could not, because I was going downhill. But really the entrepreneur mindset in me told me not to give up, because really, and I have to tell you that I really have been self-employed without a paycheck since 1979. Wow. 1979. But during that time, I actually called up and went for an interview for a job, a job. And I call it a just over broke with job. But I didn't have any money. When I went on the interview for the job, and I was still saying, I got to do it. So it's like self-sufficiency of taking care of self. Well, by the time I got home, that I had some calls that people wanted to see me. And really, if you've got a grounding in faith, God said to me, look, I told you that you're doing what I put in you to do. So why don't you trust me? And so that was grounding in my faith to continue on and really start to build back up, to build a different stream. So in case this one didn't come through, or the trends, that's why I say this is where we are now, quite frankly. Everyone should look at, how can I develop different streams of revenue before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, really up under your particular mission. If you got a mission statement, stay within your mission and vision, but come up with other innovative ideas that you still can bring in multiple streams of revenue.
Fantastic. Anatu, how have you failed and how have you recovered?
I think the root of my failure, my major failure, has been a lack of confidence in myself at the time. And so coming against choosing the wrong partner, putting myself in vulnerable situations, especially with men, etc., has come from the root cause of not being confident. If you're a woman, just believe in yourself. Just work on believing that you are able, you are capable, etc. So I ended up getting into a partnership with a partner who was going to be the main investor. And of course, that changed, a romantic partner, I mean. We are women, so I think I can address this issue. And so that changed the dynamics of the relationship. And eventually he pulled out. And by then, I'd gone to hire this new building and this new shop and all these things. So I'm not saying don't partner with your, but at least have a contract that ensures that you are protected and that you are secure. Believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, work on that. Listen to other women, look at examples, and don't be moved to do the wrong because you are vulnerable and you need money, like we say. Stand your ground, make sure you feel comfortable with everything, protect yourself, and the opportunities will come. The same way that same one that you are trying to get into, which is not good for you, came. The other ones will come. I can't emphasize this enough. And don't give in, and make sure you have an iron cast contract that protects you and your assets when something happens.
Fantastic. Love and business, dangerous combination. Thanks for that. Rachel, how have you failed and how did you recover?
No, absolutely. I think one of the things that Anatu expressed very well that resonates with me is making sure that you know when to ask for help. And for me personally, I had equipped myself with this ecosystem of support mentors, but didn't understand the true distinction between a mentor and, to take a page from the corporate playbook, a sponsor. And a mentor is somebody who you can have as many as you want. They don't necessarily have to have more experience than you, but understanding that you have this, I call it a personal board, where if something happens, then you have somebody you can call on. A sponsor, however, is more strategic, and it's somebody that's literally going to put their reputation on the line for you and pick up the phone and open those doors for you. So as I was independently consulting, I had all these great mentors, but I just was not seeing results. And it was one of those moments where I kept trying to figure out what was going wrong. I was getting encouraging and supportive advice from the mentors in my life. And as a woman entrepreneur, that's particularly important to have both. Until one of my mentors said, Rachel, have you considered finding a sponsor? I had no idea what that was. And she broke it down to me and she said, given your field right now, you need a senior level executive or somebody who is at the peak of their career that is going to pick up the phone, that is going to say, I can vouch for Rachel because I know her work, and they're going to make the connections for you. And my mentor, of course, is coming from a place of support and love, but she was saying that there's limitations to what I can do for you. And you need to be more strategic about who you are bringing around. So to go back to all of your points about sponsorship and who you engage, but I really want to emphasize, especially for women entrepreneurs, we hear mentorship all the time. That's good, but you have to have more strategic relationships. Somebody who is going to bring you that specific investor and knows their role as actually being a sponsor in your entrepreneurial journey rather than a support function. So that was absolutely my biggest, I would say, failure and growth area.
Wonderful. This whole idea of sponsor versus mentorship. We have a question around mentorship, which I'll come to later, but I'll take Sami Share Global. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Question from the audience. I see your hand up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much for giving me such a wonderful opportunity. In as much that today is my first time of joining this conference. It's actually a very good platform, and I have to commend all the organizers and people behind the whole the conference or the project. It's actually a very good idea because a lot of young people in this part of our world has a lot great and a lot of potentials, but they just need someone to help them out. Okay, mine is more like a questions and recommendation at the same time. In the sense that some of us here back in Nigeria, in particularly, want to do business that are looking for partner to partner with to also showcase our business. But we don't know how to do, or we don't know where to go, or who to meet. So I don't know if this platform have a system whereby you can link up your business, then they connect you to the other partner outside this country. Talking about to also get to know more about the business before linking, talking about testing the credibility and the genuinity of the business before linking out. In case you're not hearing me well, sorry, it's heavily raining here.
I think I got your point. Thank you. Let's throw it to the, I'll take it to the speakers.
And sorry, again, sorry, another one, please. Is there any way, is there any system set for, because this COVID, talking about COVID-19, which generally affects everyone, but I look at this way that the effect or aftermath of the COVID-19 is more on women than men, because they end up having all the pressure back to them. So is there any way that women can be also taken, or those potential business in Nigeria or any part of the world, that they can be able to bring them together to also help them to grow their business? Because I believe, I see that a lot of the aftermath is going to be much on women, which they would definitely going to need something to lay on at the end of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep the questions brief so we can take as many as possible. Yvonne, can you help with that? How can you have partners outside of your country? And I think that is a very good question for any, not just in Africa, anyone that wants to work globally. How can you have partners?
Sure. Well, you know, and I actually do coaching on how people can go global, whether you're in America, want to do Africa, or the rest of the world, and so forth. And the first thing is to develop. Now, we do have technology, and I think I heard Faz mention LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good opportunity. And you heard me speak of earlier about my connection to Thelma was over LinkedIn. And that was purposeful. and our approach, I saw, because you have to be aware of who other is doing other things. I saw all the great things that Thelma was doing in Nigeria, not only Afro grants, the funding space, and so forth. And I reached out very wholeheartedly, shared who I was, what I was doing. Could we have a conversation? That was it. Could we have a conversation? Number two, we talked about collaborations and making sure partners coming. So it was like both of us coming to the table in that conversation. This is what I do. This is what you do. Is there synergy? Is there something that can be a win-win? It cannot be one-sided. Everyone has to bring something to the table. The first time you have a conversation, and Thelma, you may get a kick out of this, and I do have these collaborative conversations, and I'm limited to 8 minutes. Because in 8 minutes, I can find out who you are, what you do, and whether there's anything that we can do together. Doesn't have to be a long time, because it's like coming to the table, recognize what you're putting on the table, what that looks like, and whether it can be. And you have to come in with a turnkey. What I mean by that, don't just say, what do you think? Do you really think we can do anything together? Have some ideas. It's a waste of time if you come in there and have no clue about how we can fit together once we know together. So I would encourage everyone around the world that if you really want to connect with other people in other countries or in your same country, have a good connection and collaboration there, because you may in a continent, one country versus another, here in the US, one state versus another, and so forth. It's about expanding. But again, it goes back to what I say: know your numbers, know your people, know your target market, know what you bring to the table, and really, and Anatu, put that in a pitch, a 2-minute pitch of who you are, what you do, and why I should be a benefit to you. So you've got to know your story.
Fantastic. We have another question, which I'll give to Rachel. Have you managed serious conflicts that have arisen in the course of your entrepreneurship journey? Rachel, go ahead.
You gave me the easy one. Thanks, Thelma. Absolutely. And I'm happy to be candid about this. You know, it goes back to the conversation around partnerships. And, you know, it was a situation where we were 2 consultants that were scoping out a project for a very big client. So we were being considered as being joint consultants on this big contract. Government client was involved. And somebody like me, I'm not hasty when it comes to the work that I do or the work that I take on. And I didn't know this consultant or this consultant's work, but we would have to be producing results very quickly. And I started to learn that our work styles were very different. I was somebody who wanted to do a lot of due diligence on certain things. And, you know, this was somebody whose work style was about results and producing, rather than kind of slowing down and incrementally assessing, does this work? Does this make sense? So we absolutely had, I would call it a very spirited debate / a heated conversation around the approach of the final deliverable. There was a lot of money on the table. And it was either going to be this person's, the consultant's way, or mine. And in terms of managing it, at the end of the day, you have to be a good listener in order to be a good entrepreneur, in order to be a good business person. And that comes from a place of, in the same way that I thought that my way was right and that we probably should do things incrementally, by sitting down and saying, okay, let me hear your concerns around why you want to expedite this so quickly, why you don't think it's necessary for us to do an assessment midway. And I quickly learned that one of the partners who were part of this client had a timing constraint. And when it came to our midterm deliverable, had we gone my way and I had delayed even by 5 weeks, which was relatively short compared to the time span of this, we would have probably lost an important partner in this multi-stakeholder agreement. So the fact that I was able to come to the table, not coming from a place of, I am listening with the intent of responding, but listening with the intent of understanding, made a huge difference. So I would encourage you, if you are experiencing conflict, take a step back, take a few deep breaths. I'm somebody that meditates avidly, just to kind of clear your head. Suggest that you both come to the table and remind yourself, I am listening with the intent to understand, not listening with the intent to respond. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think the conflict in business is something that no one teaches you how to handle. Every course tells you all the 10 steps and all of that, but when it's really hot, I think we are all kind of reactionary. So taking a step back is really good advice. We have, yes, Olufemi, please go ahead. Brief question, please.
Thank you very much. My question goes thus: how do you deal with people in business that sort of steals your idea after when you've spoken to them on what you need to do, or, for example, an executor of a business that goes around and takes over your idea and executed it?
Another amazing question. Faz, do you want to take a knack at this one?
Yeah, I'll take that on. From my experience, it's so important to have everything written, NDAs, mutual agreements, anything like that. Even if it's a simple mutual agreement, anything in writing is concrete in law and in business. And that was the only way for me to be able to show and demonstrate that my concept or my idea was taken. So I've been through that experience myself, and that was the only way to actually prove that this is my concept and my idea. So I would definitely tell any entrepreneur and anyone starting out, basically NDAs are the way forward in terms of having something mutually agreed on, and both parties understand that everyone's working towards an idea, but the concept or idea is owned by whichever company or individual. So that's really important to me.
Thank you. NDAs are important. I also add, please, if you have an idea, make sure you patent it. And if it has logos and everything, get a trademark. Never think that these things are just legalese. Do them. They can be the difference between you losing your shirt and you gaining something. So thank you for that excellent question. We have about 10 minutes. While the audience is getting ready for another question, I'm going to ask our ladies. So everyone always thinks when a woman has done all the things that you guys have done, climbing the proverbial ladder is often looked at as, in some cases, as glamorous. Rachel, I know that people think you have the most fabulous job and all of that, and I'm sure you do. But often people don't see the pains that go with climbing. And so, Anatu, can you tell us from your experience, how has it been climbing this ladder? And what one experience, very short, in a minute, can you share with the audience that is your takeaway from climbing the ladder? Unmute yourself, Anatu. Unmute yourself.
Apologies.
Thank you.
There have been a lot of disappointment. And I think if somebody had told me at the beginning to steel myself or to prepare for it, I'll better have handled it. So you start out, you're wide-eyed, you want to have a community initiative, you have all these women, and not only will your investors, your partners disappoint you, even the women that you work with, so you think that, or the staff you're working with, which I think sometimes can be the most painful. Because you think you have the same passion and the same ambition in terms of wanting to do good and have impact. And you go and then nobody turns up, or people do not show up, or the way you think it's going to go, you have this perfect vision in your mind. So I think being prepared to expect that and to think that that's going to happen anyway. So I'll give an example. One was a group of women who came to me and wanted to do this share butter business and wanted to make it something different, because we felt that the current value chain of shea butter always has the same thing. So we're going to do something different and mix it with different oils, etc., and sell it on the global market. So I went as far as getting a grant of about $300,000. I went and got all these experts, and that's the other thing as well. I wanted to work with internationals and all this network. Everybody was excited about this project. Then the women did not show up, figuratively speaking, 5 at a time, and they had all this money. So I began to realize just because people tell you something or they begin to express their need does not mean they are necessarily ready. And what I learned to do was to have to vet some of these projects before I bring even the participants or the communities on board. So right now we don't even select communities just because they are poor. We select communities that we feel are ready. They're ready to demonstrate something or contribute to it. That and the fact that I'll come back again to this issue of sexual harassment. You meet men, the investment space is really male dominated, as we know. So you meet all these people and they say, oh, we love your ideas. This is a business, etc. And at the last minute, once you get to sign the contract, then something else is expected of you. And it's happened to me at least 5-6 times. And these have been people that I never thought would be doing that because they're so professional, etc. So as a woman, I think you need to guard. I don't know how to advise you on that, but you need to guard yourself and put in structures and things like that. So right now, I don't do contracts. I just go in, I talk, and I leave it to my a male partner or somebody who is male to go and close it and finish it. So I'm not the face of it, unfortunately. So these are some of the things, but your own audience, your own family, those around you, and the very team that you got together will disappoint you at some point. But it's all part of it. Just take it, learn from it, and move on. There are plenty of people out there who want to work with you. So.
Wow. Very, very candid. And I'll come to you, Faz, climbing the ladder.
Yes, just echoing with what Anatu said, being in the sports space, as I mentioned before, is very male dominated, and it's just being persistent and climbing that ladder and breaking those glass ceilings and just not allowing yourself to stop. And there's some days where obviously you just need to stop, breathe, and then start again. There's no stopping. It's a pause, you take some time out, you carry on. And there's some days that you just feel like you just want to give up, both business, entrepreneur side of things, both at work, if you're working in the corporate environment. There's people who's going to test you, and never ever give up. I've learned that the hard way, and I'm still on my path. As Phoebe said as well, whatever's God's written for you, that's what's going to happen. So I always say to anybody, just continue doing what you have to do. Don't worry about the time frame. Don't worry when people say, oh, you're a woman, you're in your 30s, you should be married and having kids. Just carry on your path. And whatever God's created that pathway, you just carry on in it.
Isn't it strange they never tell men that you're married, you should go and get married? And anyhow, I digress. Rachel.
Yeah, definitely an important question. And I'll tell you now that be realistic about your expectations. And that is to say that there will be people that doubt you at every single stage. And I think that if you're realistic about coming up against those hurdles, it makes it a little bit easier to get through them once you're confronted with them. There isn't that shock when it happens. Concretely, I was the first hire here in New York City for this global agriculture company that's 100 years old, based in Morocco. I'm not Moroccan. I'm Black. I'm relatively young and relatively new to the agriculture space. So my being kind of the first and face of this structure that wasn't even really here was a big deal. So I very much had to invest in building relationships within the company to show and prove that I deserve to be here. And I'm here for a reason. I was hired for a reason. I do good work. But knowing that I would be up against some of those initial kind of speculations, well, this may not make sense. Why are we doing this? Just reinforced that I needed to trust my gut and to keep going. To Faz's point, always take a pause, but never see that as the end state. So for me personally, it took a lot of time. My first year with the company, I was doing a lot of travel, not because I enjoyed it and because it was glamorous. I was exhausted. It's not a 2-hour flight. And I was doing it because I needed to build those relationships to make sure that people understood the value that I brought to the table and that I deserved to be here.
Wonderful. Phoebe.
Wow. Again, my history of entrepreneurship started so many years ago. And so many times I'm used to being the only woman in the room or the only Black in the room. Back in 1982, when I was a Black female in finance as a stockbroker, 1982. And there were other white men, millionaires, and I had to prove myself. Now, how do you prove yourself? Show I can be head to head with them. And that was producing. And when I produced the numbers, my numbers spoke for me. They didn't see this young Black woman, they saw the dollar signs. So you speak to them in their language and you let them know that. And I say this and I stand behind this. A lot of times, you hear the numbers that women earn 74 cents to every dollar that a man will make. Well, quite frankly, I say I make $1.50 to every man that makes $1. So I make more than most men do. And ask me why I do that or how I do that is because I asked for it. And I can prove I deserve it, just as you say for us, Rachel. When we come into the room, we're in that room for a reason. And we're in the room, and to stay in the room, we have to prove ourselves. We'll always have to be the better, best, and the better than anything else. And we do it. So what I've seen that a lot of times that women, we don't own our, as someone said it earlier, we don't own our value. So if we know we're the best of it, everything we do. That's why I say my only competition is excellence. I'm not competing with anyone else. I'm just competing with excellence. If I do excellence, I'm going to be at the top of the heap. And we have to continue to do that. And we have to speak boldly. A lot of times we cannot have this mimic, I say, not loud talk, be confident, not arrogant. And my definition between the two is that an arrogant person believes they're the only person that knows something. A confident person is a person who knows that they know something. And that's a difference, but it's a thin line between it. But we have to stand on that. And we as business women across the world, we're head to head with different people. And I say again, I don't put myself don't give me that woman's piece of pie, that minority piece of pie, that Black piece of pie. I want a piece of the whole pie. And I will go face to face, head to head with you to compete for that and get my share. And I can show you that I can do it. Give me a chance. I had a conversation just recently with someone who I have whites who I coach. And it's one of my clients. She's a white 60-year-old white woman. And after all the protests here in DC and across the country, she said, I know I need to say something to you, but I don't know what to say. And I said, well, just talk to me. And she said, I need to unlearn a lot of things because I never knew it was this way. Yes, it's been this way all the time. And if you don't really have a dialogue about it, you're not going to understand. But since I had considered myself being in the cultural world, Black, white world, men, women, and whatever, stand your own. But you have to know who you are to stand for who you are. That's the difference.
Thank you. Well, I'll just share I think for me, I've been the pioneer CEO of a number of things and starting my own business, and also in the investment space, obviously male dominated. And I think one of the things that, I love the women that work with me on my team. Some of them are on this call. And I tell them, and sometimes I don't think it gets through, and I want to shake them because I wish someone told me, is that you have to outwork everyone. You have to outwork everyone in every area. If you're a woman who is a high flyer, and it's so funny when I heard them say, Kamala Harris was ambitious. I'm like, you mean every woman faces this? You know, because I mean, the poor woman is going to be, she's a candidate for vice president. You bring up that she's ambitious, and I'm like, so I'm in good company because, you know, I've always heard this thing, and it's, you know, it's, I feel like every woman has a story of someone who has told you you can't do it or you're not good enough. And somehow the women who haven't risen have listened to those voices. So my advice is, do not listen to them. Nothing is impossible. And you have to have the places where you get your validation, because anyone who's telling you you can't do it is the wrong place. And you just make sure, for men and women, failure is different. A man can fail in one business today, the next day he has printed new business cards, and he has set up something new. And women, we just stay on the floor, and the failure becomes a badge, and we're so down on ourselves. And one of the things that I've learned and I share with young women is, make sure you pick yourself up immediately. I talk to myself in the mirror and I tell myself, snap out of it. The sun is going to come out tomorrow, so you better get up and with the sun, you know. And I tell myself, and it's really helped me, because I know that if I spend some time in self-pity, I will never, ever get anything done. And so we've shared our lives. We promised to be honest. And I'll just invite we're rounding up, so I'll just invite each of my panelists. You have half a minute to just tell the world, in this COVID world now, everyone has to have a global identity. What is your global identity? I'll start with Rachel.
In this COVID adapted world, my global identity is as an African woman who seeks to connect and uplift other women across the world. That's it.
Okay, Faz, what's your global identity?
Similar to what Rachel said, I want it to be, I want to create a pathway for inspiring women into the sports industry, being a trailblazer, similar to Fatima Samora in FIFA. You've got the First Lady from Liberia, who's a CAF representative for women's football. And obviously you've got Danny Garcia now, who's the co-owner of XFL. So I want to be a trailblazer and creating that pathway for young women in sports.
Anatu, what is your global identity?
My global identity basically is to be a major voice for rural women in terms of convincing governments and other investors to invest in women-led industry. So I want to see factories and, you know, in all the rural areas, and income and job and opportunity. And I want to be one of the faces of that across the continent.
Phoebe, what is your global identity?
I am a global strategic thinker to help businesses, organizations, and governments to help others reach sustainability. There's enough to go around for everyone, and I want to help to spread the wealth.
My global identity is, I am a God entrepreneur. I want to use my God-given gifts and talents to break women out of poverty, women of color anywhere in the world. So I'd just like to invite our audience, thousands of people on Facebook, our audience here on what is it called now, Zoom, to just thank my panel with me. These are my sisters, my friends. Watch this space. The 5 of us are going to do something together. We don't know what, but we've decided. Thank you all for joining us.